Okay. And as my wife would say, three, two, one.
And we're live. That's to give the thing a chance to catch up. Because you might
Oh,
think you're live and it might not quite be live. So
oh, I
it
didn't
might
know
give a
that.
little buffer. I don't know. That's just my theory.
I did not know that. Okay, so I'm going to go on and go to YouTube right now and then find me, if I can. And I'm going to turn this down so it doesn't feedback on me. And right now, there's nobody in the room, but it's all right. You give it a few minutes, and then after that, we can talk if it's just me and you talking. But I like talking to you.
Do you?
I do.
What do you like about talking to me?
Then you have a voice, and
I have ears.
and you have ears, and eyes, and a nose. No, I like talking to you because I learn from you. Yeah, I'm constantly learning something from you. And I've said this to you before. But you know, a lot of my views and perceptions have changed just by talking to you. There's things that we talk about, and I think about them, and then I'm like, oh, no, I still like, and come to a different conclusion. And then there's sometimes I'm like, well, you have a point, but
Right.
that's nothing I haven't already told you.
Right. But that's normal. When you have a relationship with people, you influence them and they influence you.
Right. So I wonder how loud these fans are.
I don't know. They sound loud to me. I thought you
It's
did
a
a test.
oh, peace. My aunt speaks is up in here.
Peace, my eye speaks. How are you?
I, I've been raving and raving and raving. Hey, sister, my aunt, would you like in on this panel? Just let me know, and I'll drop you a link.
I thought you were just supposed to continually
Yeah.
drop the link without giving anybody the impression. Just say, well, the link is
Well,
in the
that's
chat.
true, but I particularly like this point. But that live they did was so, bro, that was just so awesome and uplifting. I was like, yeah, well, I've been talking about it since I heard it or saw it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go on and drop. I'm gonna go on and drop the link. Um, this will be just a minute. Uh, oh, there we go. Invite, copy. There, I dropped the link for anybody that wants to jump in. Now, I think I'm gonna go on and start. This is I'm kind of ripping off Gwen B, and I'm gonna give everyone a link to her channel. Everyone, both of you, a link to her channel. She says she can't come until about 45 minutes. So if we're on that long, we may be on that long. Uh, you're more than welcome. Your input is always welcome in anything I do because you just like talk a whole lot of sense. But I'm gonna give a link to Sister Gwen B's channel. She did a video that was basically breaking down the difference between black writers and pro-black writers. Now I have mentioned in my because I have another channel. My other channel is Reading and Writing in the Dark. I guess I should put a link to that. My other channel is Reading and Writing in the Dark, and I specifically talk about um, writing and reading or literature from, I guess, a black perspective, a pro-black perspective, for black people, you know. And in that, I had made the comment on my last uh, video that I know brother Omawale Africa might take issue with me using the term pro-black because he says that there's no such thing, and that's one of the few places where just like I said on the video, I have like a nuanced disagreement with him. I understand where he's coming from because it's kind of a nebulous term because there's no way to really nail down what pro-black is. But I make the argument that there is a such thing as anti-black, and therefore there has to be a such thing as pro-black. Just like there's a just like there's no down without an up, there's no right without a left, or vice versa. If you have a right, then you have a left. If you have an up, then by necessity you have a down. If you have an anti-black, which I totally believe that there is, then there has to be by default a pro-black. There's just I think just the confusion is in actually defining what that is. So I'm about to drop a few links, honey. Would you take over? This is my beautiful wife, Angela. Angela is the author of I Declare Love. Declare is spelled Declaire. The main character's name is Claire. I'm sorry, Declare. And it's
They call her Claire for short. Or they call her Lear for short. But you
Lear
can
for
call her
short?
Claire. She'll
Okay.
go with that.
So she is the author of I Declare Love and also Tamu Tamu. And so I'll let you take it for right now while I'm putting these links in.
Okay, I'm just dropping in the chat. I don't know if I haven't thought much about the idea that there is no definition for pro-black, and so you can't use that term, because I feel like if I use a term and I define it, then there it is. But while we were chatting, I just did a couple of a Google search, and I see what I think are viable definitions of pro-black, or I might tweak them a little bit, but just is it called the Urban Dictionary? The urban something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I just dropped those in the link. Pro-black, supporting or favoring black people, according to Wiktionary. And then pro-black is a lifestyle that encourages economic growth and development of black people as a whole, with the purpose of increasing the wealth and population. And it goes on. I didn't go in and hit the link. That's just what I pulled up from what came on my Google page. But I definitely think that I'm very comfortable using the term pro-black, and I'm very comfortable having a discussion about what that means for me. But just like terms like, racism, a lot of people will, say, well, that's reverse racism. And then some people assert that based on the definition of racism, there can be no reverse racism. That bus is loud.
Yeah.
Fans.
Yeah. And I'm one of those, by the way. I don't believe that black people can be racist, but I'm sorry.
Right. And I kind of feel like, terms, language is it flows, it ebbs, it grows, it develops, it shifts, it changes. So I'm perfectly comfortable, nailing something down for the purpose of our conversation, but understanding that, everybody's analysis and interpretation is different. So, you changed the title to What Are Pro-Black Authors? Oh,
right.
Okay. So I can kind of jump right in. Before I do that, I just want to acknowledge, I already said hello to my Aunt Speaks. Peace to the Radical Sister. Hello.
Thank you.
I heard you all from the other room a moment ago. Hood Mistress Reloaded. I need to check out that other channel, working on a couple book ideas. Yeah,
Hood Mistress. Go ahead. Okay.
I facilitate a Black Writers Group here, but I would love to have, I think, a broader reach so that I can connect with more pro-Black writers.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So maybe Hood Mistress Reloaded can be a part of the circle and the support and the love and the encouragement. Right. And then is that everybody? Yeah. Okay, that's everybody.
Okay, and I want to add through. It's so good for Black writers, for pro-Black writers to come together and write and encourage each other, because everybody's at different levels and different stages. At least in our writers group here, there are different levels, different stages, and different styles. Some people like to write more self-help. Some like to write action adventures. Some like to write mysteries, and some like to write love stories, and so on.
Who writes action adventures?
And me.
Oh.
and theoretical evan fiction. And the thing is that in all of that, we've constantly been encouraging each other and each other's work. We have your mother, she writes poetry and short essays. And we've gotten to where, and we're going to talk about this a little later, but there's a platform called Kindle Vella. And all of us, well, not all of us, but four of us have started submitting and putting things on Kindle Vella and are being published. And three of us have gotten bonuses from this. It's really something. It's really interesting. So go ahead. I'm going to go on and do another link.
And what? I don't understand.
Oh yeah, you can take the mic. I'm getting ready to put Sister Gwen's.
Okay, so I always like to talk about the title of or the context, why we're together. So what are pro-Black authors? So I just added to the chat that I definitely make a distinction these days between an author and a writer. So I think I would put pro-Black writers, but pro-Black author is good. I think a writer is someone who writes, who is actively writing. Maybe if you don't have pen in your hand at that moment, you wouldn't be a writer. But I mean, someone who has a regular practice of writing is a writer to me, and an author is someone who's published something. But I don't know. I might think more deeply about that. To me, a pro-Black author or pro-Black writer is not just a person who happens to be born in Black skin, who is writing about whatever. Like, you could be Black and be writing about whatever. That's not necessarily pro-Black to me. And also you have, like, people be out here shouting Wakanda forever. You have, some people who are not Black who write Black characters. And so to me, I don't consider that pro-Black either. I don't care. Like, I haven't paid intense attention, but I hear my husband out here listening to this whole conversation about, like, I don't know what some movie is out that people are, talking about, and two of the writers are white women, or maybe those are the only two writers. The woman king. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's not pro-Black. That's not for me. And there are some things. So I feel like just because there are Black characters in it, or just because the author is Black, does not make it pro-Black. What makes something pro-Black, in my opinion, is that, one, it has to be by a Black person, and two, it has to be by a Black loving person who is writing in a loving way to support the growth and development and the perpetuation of Black people. So if someone is writing, there's on Kindle Vella, I have seen a lot of stories where it's like interracial love, intercultural love, interspecies love. I don't consider that pro-Black, because exactly. I feel like that's about, from my perspective, if we talking about the swirl, it's about the annihilation of Black folks. So yeah, that's the plantation was 100% Black. Right, 99% Black. So yeah, that was definitely not a pro-Black space. We're not trying to go back there. That's
some of us are, but go on ahead.
we ain't trying to go back there.
All right.
And we trying to, yeah. So anyway, and I kind of feel like, right, pro-Black writing is, I don't even want to say that it's about getting us off the plantation, because I also, as an affirmationist, as someone who believes in positive speaking and affirming what I want and desire and focusing on the good and the positive, I also feel like I just like what in my writing and my creating and in the worlds that I'm creating, I like to just have Black people who are like happy and free. Not that their lives are perfect, but they're just happy and wholesome and free people. And they, struggle and deal with things. But I don't know if I'm necessarily, focused on, in my writing, a fight against white people, because I really want to imagine a world where SOUs don't exist. Now, SOUs come up in some of my writing. The system of white supremacy is what SOUs is. But I really want to imagine a world and imagine our people back and forward, and focus on the times when we're not dealing with SOUs.
Right.
So, yeah. Are you back? Do you have anything? I would
I'm
consider
writing
Black characters pro-Black, because it's neither authentic nor genuine. Yeah, I feel like I don't know because I have read work by men. I can't remember. This is one book I was reading, and I kept looking at the cover, and I'm like, "Is that did a man write it or did a woman write it?" Because to me, it seemed to be authentically a woman's voice. So, but I don't feel that that's a woman. Like someone who's dressed up in drag could convincingly look like a woman to me. Someone I feel like someone could convincingly write a black person's voice, and I don't know if I would be like, your slip is showing. I can tell you're not black, but they're still not black. I don't care.
Right.
It's still not pro-black to me.
Right.
So
I'm going to read Sister Ma'at Speaks comment. She said, I'm on the fence about the term pro-black. I don't really have a problem with the term. I think a lot of people use the term and it tends to encompass so many different views without a code. And that and she hit the nail on the head of what the issue is with the term.
That's your issue with the term.
A lot of people have it. But wait, let me say this. I wrote in our magazine, UP magazine, which is unapologetically pro-black magazine. The magazine of the pro-black community. I'll have to put a link to that in the chat. Also, we're writers over here.
Who's modded up, right? Am I a moderator?
I think. Well, yeah. Let me mod.
I don't see any mod.
I know that really. I need to mod a bunch of people up. I'm going to mod a bunch of people up. I didn't even realize that I had, but see, and that's odd because Sister Anjali should definitely already be modded. I'm going to mod up Hood Mistress and Ma Speak.
Because I can put in some of those links and
okay.
You could talk more and I could talk more.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. I'll mod everybody up while you keep talking. You can talk a little bit about your work and what motivates your work.
Well, I guess before I could talk about that. But what I'm really curious about, this is a new channel. That's why she's not a mod, Sister Anjali.
Oh, okay.
I'm curious about this code thing. I know people are like, oh, black people have to get on code. And it's very confusing to me because I'm like, is there a code? Is there, what is the code? It's so noisy. The cat is in the window.
I know
My
that
upstairs
freaking
neighbor's cat. The trucks are going by. The fans are going. I don't know how y'all can hear us. So I guess for me, the concept of code is sort of confusing. So yeah. Okay. So in terms of the works that I have going now that are actively available to be, wait. Okay.
What?
Somebody's talking about the salves. I love using salves. You'll see that in my writing. That's my favorite term. I knew it was a pig. I didn't know it was a female pig. But some people say the female pigs are worse than the male pigs. And I don't know. I don't have an opinion.
You know how I feel about that.
Peace to the cat. I guess the cat had something to say. Now that cat is black and white. It's like I don't know if it's a biracial cat or what's the story, but it's mixed in this way. So the stories that I have that are available now are on this platform called Kindlevella. And it is short stories that you can read one episode at a time. They don't necessarily have to be short stories, but the episodes tend to be short. So they might be something that you can read. I just read somebody's series, and I feel like each episode, it took me about a minute or 2 minutes to read. There were 7 episodes. I'm a relatively quick reader, so it was like, that was about 15 minutes. My husband tends to be more verbose, more wordy. So his episodes probably take me 20 minutes to read. So they're relatively short reads. Episodes come out. My episodes for my stories come out, once a week, twice a week. It just depends on my schedule and what I feel like doing. But it's short. So both of my pieces are currently on Kindlevella. One is called I Declare Love instead of I Declare War. The main character's name is Declare. Actually, in this short story, it's 2 main characters, Declare and Tyrone. But Declare goes on to be the main character in a book that I am working on called, the working title is Love, Freedom, and Abolition. And that story is about a modern day system for freeing Black folks who are enslaved in prison systems and other systems. So she marries into a family, and then her brother-in-law is already doing the work on a small scale, and they work together. She amplifies it. She blows up what he's doing in a good way. amplifying it, not blowing it up, like messing it up. But this is the precursor, like how she and her husband got together. So it's a love story, and I love love. So that's I Declare Love. Declare, Declaire. Declare, I Declare Love is one of the main characters' names.
Okay, I just dropped the link.
Names. And then the other piece, oh, I have a delay over here. I don't see your link over here. And then the other piece that is also on Kindle Vella is a new piece. It's the main character, or the continuing character is Mama Tamu. Tamu, she's a 91-year-old woman. She's a professional matchmaker. So she does Black love. She does matches for Black folks throughout the world. Code also helps us know how to move to a common goal. Yeah, I'm not opposed to a code. I just don't know what the code is. And I feel like I would probably need to contribute to developing a code that I was going to follow.
Right.
But maybe not. I guess it
hard to
depends
move
on how
on.
it was oriented.
One according.
So Tamu is it focuses on she has an agency, matchmaking agency called the Love by Tamu agency, and so it's just features different couples that she's getting together. But her specialty is Black love. When she was a young woman, she was a sugar baby. So she put herself through, or her sponsor put her through college and medical school. And so I want to explore the idea of transactional relationships in that context. I want, I'm kind of fascinated by, sugar babies and that whole, and just in relationships, how money works and how power dynamics shift and move in relationships. So those are my two stories. The first couple episodes of Tamu are up, and all of the episodes of I Declare Love are up. So the first 3 episodes on Kindle Vella are always free. Right now, it seems that Vella is giving out free tokens. When I first got on, I got 200 tokens, and I just got 200 more tokens for free. But the way that their system works is that after the first 3 episodes of a story, you can continue to unlock episodes by paying tokens. The number of tokens that you pay is going to vary depending on the length of the story. And you can get tokens for $2, $15. You can buy them in bulk from Amazon.
Okay.
Blah, 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 blah.
So in going back to the subject of the thing, it's like, what's the difference between a Black author and a pro-Black author? And again, just like my aunt Speaks said, I admittedly, I hang around in like YouTube streets or social media streets more than Angela does. So I see different things like on Twitter and what she described kind of nails what the issue is. No one has defined it. Now I think that I have a definition for it. I think I've defined it. And even when we talk about things in terms of codes, no one's defined the code. And then even if you define the code, who is the one who defines the code? In other words, who died and made you God? How are you the person who defines the code? But I do think that there are some things that should just be like inherent, or not inherent. That's not the word I'm looking for. But some things that should just be a given. And I think one of them is if you dating and marrying white, then automatically you can't be pro-Black. Something like that is easy for me. And I think some things can become nuanced. When we talk about writers, would you consider someone like what's her name? Raised in the Sun. I'm always losing her name.
Lorraine Hansberry. No, I would not consider her pro-Black.
Right.
A little bit that I know of her, no.
Right, she's a Black writer, but I would not consider her a pro-Black writer. Anjali Shabazz, I consider a pro-Black writer.
Mm-hmm.
And sweetheart, would you put a link to Up Magazine in there?
when I get a chance.
Okay. So.
I guess before I was just
go
going to
ahead.
respond to my Ot Speaks. That's what I was doing.
Mhm.
Code helps us to know how to move to a common goal. It is hard to move on one accord based on Black alone, especially when we involve ideology. And I agree, but I definitely feel like what I was going to say is that I feel like it's important to connect with like-minded people
Mhm.
and explore your connections, and then develop guidelines for your movement, for your work, for your lifestyle, for your community in collaboration. So I don't know if there is some. I heard you saying something about it, like some God from on high is going to come down and bless us with the code, like
No, I
in the
didn't
movie
say
The
that.
Ten Commandments. Oh, I just imagine that.
No. What I said, is what I said is who determines what the code is.
Oh, so
You
I,
know
def-
who, and then
I
I
feel
and I
like
use the
yes,
term who died and made you. You know,
right. But I
made
feel
you
like
out
just
of
like
it.
in our marriage,
Uh-huh.
we have, there are certain understandings that we have and certain
Right.
things that we agree on. And I feel like in organizations, usually you're going to come together around an organizational mission, and you're going to have some common understandings and beliefs. So I kind of feel like I don't know if it's um, dang, we just had the day. Marcus Garvey. I don't know if Marcus Garvey explicitly said it, but I've definitely been. I was at a Marcus Garvey event maybe like 5 years ago, and one of the speakers is like, everybody needs to be in an organization. If you're Black, you need to be in an organization. We are, and I feel like I agreed with that, and I thought it was an important statement
Mhm.
that we out here just freestyling, and we're community people,
Right.
and we need to work in collaboration. That's where we find our balance, and that's where we find our true way of being.
Right.
So making
Yeah.
a salad is good.
I want to make sure I answer Hood Mistress's question. Is getting a book on Amazon difficult? I tried through Draft to Digital, and there's too much red tape for me. Now I'll feel when we talk about for Amazon. It's not hard to brother. I don't want to say it's not hard, but let me ask you this real quick, Hood Mistress. Are you working in Microsoft Word? And also, Sister Ajali could probably speak on this also because she has books up on there also. But if you're working with Microsoft Word, the most difficult thing that you're going to end up dealing with is the formatting. For me, I found templates for the different sized books, and now I've gotten to where before I even start to write, I'll load up the template and I'll write into that. Um, the stuff that I have right now, I have to copy and paste into it and then kind of retro work it back. But as I work on my new pieces, I just start out instantly with that template. When you write within that template, then it's already laid out for you. But the important thing to remember is if you're going chapter to chapter, then you will need to put page breaks at the different chapters where you want the start of the chapter to, or the start and stop of the chapter to happen on a separate page. You have to have those page breaks in there. But as far as the measurements go, that's pretty straight. That's pretty straightforward once you start typing it directly in a template. Sister Ajali said we had to format the whole thing. That's a great plan, Brother Ayapo. Thank you. Yeah, I learned it the hard the hard way with melanin, but and then the cover design, that's kind of straightforward too. It was a little more difficult when I did melanin because I've designed covers for our beloved Sister Ajali, and uh, hers again were pretty straightforward because it's just the front cover, and her king does the back cover, but I was doing the front, back, and spine, which is a lot more involved. And if you get it wrong, then it's a problem. But when you get it right, it's beautiful. I don't know if that answered it for me. Uh, I do have someone who used, and I can't remember if it was Draft or Digital, but she uh, Jamila, what did she use?
I don't know. She paid some publishing company.
She
I
paid a publishing
believe.
company with
That's
it,
how I understood.
and she said she wasn't real happy with it, and now she's putting out other works, and and she's working on the formatting right now. So the formatting is is kind of hard as far as red tape, as far as setting up your account and everything like that. All of that is pretty straightforward at Amazon, and that's what makes. I'm not going to say what I usually say about Amazon, but that Amazon is pretty straightforward. Barnes and Noble is a little more involved, but yeah, when you're going to Amazon, it's it almost just walks you through it. So I hope that answered your question. If it didn't, let me know, and I can try to do a little bit better.
I want to say something to that question
Uh-huh.
because to me, draft to digital makes me think that it's a digital copy. So that she's trying to put out something digitally, not like anything that's going to have a spine or does a bit.
Uh-huh.
So I think that it depends on how technologically savvy you are, and it also depends on how picky or meticulous you are. So I haven't actually done anything outside of Kindle Vella, but the impression that I get from looking over Ayapo's shoulder is it looked pretty complicated to me. Now, true, he was formatting hardcover and paperback books, and it was a huge book. It was like 500-600 pages, but the process looked a little difficult to me, and I saw him consulting YouTube videos or making consultations several times during the process. I have also seen people's work because I've been reading Kindle more now, digital documents, and some of the documents look like something that I would produce with my level of technical ability. Some of them look more disorganized and more chaotic than what I would produce, but I put my book both digitally and in print, still waiting for the platforms to stock up. Okay. Yeah, but I like looking at Ayabo go through the process. I thought, I could see where it would make sense to pay someone who has the technical expertise to do it if you don't have the technical expertise already. So, but the Amazon system seems to be the easiest from our experience of two so far. We haven't done Apple yet.
Right.
Or there's an indie one that I'm looking into.
Right. So when it comes
You
to,
couldn't use the book cover you made. It was too difficult to upload a Apple one.
oh, I'm sorry. I was hoping, and this was before I tried to publish mine. This
That
is
was
just
just
Sister
the
Octoly.
obvious,
I was hoping that you could just add a front and a back, and it would automatically do it. Just give a kind of a create a spine on its own. Um, but if you want, I can try to do a redesign on that. It's a little bit involved, but I'll be happy to do that for you. You're my sister, and you you're my sis. Anyway, just let me know. Let's see. Good mistress. I put out my book both. Oh, you already have one out? I put out my book both digitally and print. Still working on the platforms to stock up.
Still waiting on the platform.
Oh, still waiting on. Oh well, definitely put the title of your book in here by all means, so that we can all buy it. Because that's what I'm like. I'm like support Black authors, support especially pro-Black authors. Because we it's funny because we will, when I say we, I mean our people will complain about how we're treated in media and so on, and then we have people out here, putting out work, that is for our people, by our people, by people who love, honor, and respect our people. And as it's put out here, it's like here it is. Here it is, something that's not going to be insulting to you and that you're going to enjoy, that you're going to love. So support pro-Black authors.
Mm-hmm. And that kind of gets to, that was my question. Why are pro-Black authors important? I don't know if we've established what are pro-black authors. I gave my opinion. I don't know if other people had other opinions. Nobody died, made me God. I just am a woman here with an opinion.
Right.
But yeah, why are like I think that for me the main reason why, or one of the main reasons why I think pro-black artists are important is because in order to visualize ourselves, in order to create anything, you have to have a vision for it. So if you want to create a table, you kind of have to have an idea in your mind of what you want to create, what you want to use it for, and how you might put it together. That's how it seems to me. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like if you want to create a move to another country, you have to like, okay, I want to move to another country. You have to work out the logistics of it. And so I feel like in order for us as Black folks to move to a place where we're not in the South anymore, we have to have some alternate visions. We have to imagine other things. And I feel like artists, writers, and other artists help to create images and visions of worlds that are not the ones that are right in front of our face. So that's why I think that pro-black writers are important.
That's awesome. Um, Hood Mistress's book is called Longing for the Night. That's a good title. Inspired by the poem "What Goblin Market" by Christina Ricci. Not Christina Ricci. That's it. That's not Christina Ricci. I'm sitting here, don't know how to read. Christina Rossetti. Two young sisters face the, and then there's a space there. The trials and tribulations of the hood in this coming of age story about the harshness of living in South Central Los Angeles.
I see. Because I hit the link. I was trying to see.
Yeah, that sounds pretty awesome. I will definitely be buying this book and reading it and leaving you a review.
And it's in Barnes and Noble. So yeah, if you loaded it up to Barnes and Noble, at least from the outside looking in, I think that you'll probably have an easier time with the other, company.
Right.
That's a good title, sister.
That is a good title.
Yeah. Okay.
And see, and that's what I'm talking about. You have writers out here. I didn't know you were a writer. Good mistress. I had no idea. I would suggest. I don't know if you already are doing it, but when you're in Twitter, be sure and start putting links to your book. And I have to click this stuff off my screen.
Okay.
Yeah, be sure and put links in your book. You see, I be bombing the crap out of Twitter.
Maybe that's why she doesn't do it. Maybe she's like, I don't want to be like Ayako.
Maybe, but I do. I push my stuff. I push other writer stuff. I'm like always pushing because our names are stuff. I'm always sharing, always, because that's how we're gonna get out here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right, honey. Thank you for that. See, that's why I love her, and that's why I need her.
Here is a description of I Declare Love. Well, this isn't the description, but this is just in Kindle Bella. I guess it's the description. Declare and Tyrone meet and sparks fly. They fall in love with each other quick, fast, and in a hurry. It seems too good to be true. But is it? Is it safe to love? Are there any good rules when it comes to love? Do we have to fight for love? Are there always games being played when it comes to love? Is simple, sane, old-fashioned love out of style? Can love set us free? So that story is basically finished. I might put an epilogue. I haven't decided yet.
That's all, and it's awesome. It's an awesome story. I helped to edit it.
Yes.
Which is kind of a joke because I'm kidding. But I'm not like the best editor, but I am decent when editing Angela's work because Angela's work is pretty tight already by itself.
Wow.
Melanin went through seven edits,
and we have beta readers.
I mean, it was. And still I was still finding stuff.
Yeah, it's a big piece.
Right. And Sister Anjali, she goes through several edits. And that's one of the hardest parts. I don't know, Good Mistress, if you found editing the hardest part. I do know that right now I'm finding with the writing that writing the book was the easiest part. It's the promotion and letting people know that the work is out here.
Mm-hmm.
That is challenging. It's fun in its way, and sometimes it's a little frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm enjoying the journey. I really am, and I think that it's important for pro black writers to be out here because when we write things like me, when I write theoretical evan fiction, I'm coming from the standpoint of a people who who a lot of times you don't see a lot of stories about us in futuristic settings, just like with Ajali's books, This Black and This Black Nation. You you have like futuristic settings. You have us in the future. You have us in a better time, and so on. And
Sometimes you have us in a worse time,
and,
not
and, and
surviving
so
the worst.
right. And the thing is that our people seldom, like if you watch television or watch television growing up, and you seldom saw us, and now you're starting to see us. But unlike something like Black Panther, it's not white people's interpretation of us.
Mm-hmm.
It is our voices telling our stories,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I'm going for. That's what I'm going after.
Mm-hmm. And dang, I was trying to find the person who said it's not authentic. Oh, here it is, Hood Mistress. I wouldn't consider some folks writing black characters as pro-black because it's neither authentic or genuine.
Right.
And I kind of feel like it can't be authentic and genuine because they are not black.
Because they are
folks.
not black. Right.
But
They're not
I
black.
wanted to take a commercial break to read. I come from a theater background, so I'm just having some readers' theater time. This is the description of surviving the
The
worst, which is a story on Kindle Vella that you can read right now.
While you're doing that, I'm doing that.
5 years ago, a cataclysm now known as the collapse occurred. Dimensions merged with horrific results. It is now common to see creatures of myth, legend, and nightmare, along with once long extinct animals populating the landscape. Carl, Latanya, and Lester embark on a quest to find a lost book that can't change the madness of the new normal, but may assist them and others in the now nearly impossible task of surviving the worst. So that book is on, or that story is on Kindle Vella right now. There are 8 episodes of it. So go into Kindle Vella, at least read the first 3 episodes. If you can get those 200 tokens or whatever tokens Amazon is giving out to you, they probably just gave me 200 because I'm not a fan. I don't really do business with them. So, this is an exception. So I got, because I think some people got 500.
Right.
And then, unlock some other episodes of Surviving the Worst, of, what was this? Oh, I Declare Love. That's the end of my commercial.
Famu.
I'm going to read about that later. There are
Okay.
times the journey is more rewarding.
And I just want to say, Hood Mistress, after I read your work, as I already said, I'm going to make sure that I leave a review, and it'll be an honest review. I'm pretty sure it'll be a 5-star review. I love our people and I love our work.
Can I just say something
Yeah,
else?
go ahead.
That there is something very exciting and impressive to me about someone who completes something. So I just want to applaud, all of the authors who have completed works out here, because it's not a small task. Anybody can come up with an idea, but pushing it through to fruition is something that I think is awesome. So
Absolutely.
yay, you! Okay, go ahead, babe. I cut you off. Did you remember?
No, you're fine. No, I just wanted to say, when you do read some of our work, if you read Angela's work, Sister Ajali's work, Hood Mistress's work, mine, please be sure and leave a review. If it's a 1-star review, you can keep that. But if it's a good review, by all means, please review it because it helps. It not only helps the story, but other people who come across the work will see it, and it'll and it does and a lot of times prompt people to want to read it if there are good things being said about it. One of my favorite stories up there is I Married a Mass Murderer, and that book is nothing like anything that I typically will read.
It's someone recommended.
But somebody recommended that book was the bomb. I couldn't put it down. I could not put that back down, and then that book down, and then I wrote a review. I wrote a long review of it. As a matter of fact.
What a surprise! You usually write such short things.
Exactly, smart aleck. But yeah, but yeah, I wrote that review, and the story is called "I Married a Mass Murderer," and it is just one of the twistiest, turniest. It's a. I can't even tell you. I can't even describe the book.
A mess. I don't know.
It's a hot mess in a good way. So
yeah. I read something that was a mess, and I couldn't put it down. I read that piece on Kindle Vella, then I read another book on Kindle. But the way that I was able to put the author down is that she started having white male love interest and I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. I couldn't just keep it moving.
Oh, right.
But before that, the stories were such a mess. Well, I don't know if it was a mess, but it was kind of a mess, and they were just really interesting. One was about this community of pro-black women, I don't know what to call them, but they believed that the black woman was God, and they lived and so yeah, and they just had their own communities based on that. And it was a really interesting idea. It was, I was curious to see the author develop it. She seems to be a young writer to me, so it was just it was exciting. So
I'm trying my best to find the name of this author who wrote "I Married a Mass Murderer." I'm gonna go into my Kindle.
That's how I feel reading certain books at the library.
Which one?
Hood Mistress said it. I was trying to put the description of Surviving the Worst in the chat, but I think that you have like a 200-word limit,
right?
And your description was like 500, 600, right? 900 words.
And this is like a little side note. That is why I do not get into in-depth discussions and arguments with people online, because you're not going to solve the problems of the world in 200 characters or less.
200 characters,
or even adequately, give your position in a so-called argument in 200 characters. So it's not even helpful to do that. So that's kind of an aside. I'm still trying to find this.
I can Google it and look it up.
I that's what I just did.
Oh,
and I'm not finding it.
Last time I Googled it, I thought I found it.
So Angela and I are both looking for the same thing.
No, I'm not.
What are you doing?
I'm putting in the description of my declare. I got kind of stimulated reading the description of, what was the name of the book? I already forgot. Darknet. What was it? Dang, I forgot the child's book already. The link I just went to is Barnes and Noble.
Oh, well, while we're doing that,
Longing for the Night. The description.
Right, Hood Mistress, you are more than welcome to come in on the discussion and talk about your book a little bit, because I'd be interested in hearing it. And like I said, I'm definitely going to buy it and read it and leave a review, because I like to read works by people who I know, even if I know them like through online or whatever. You know why I'm not finding this is because Kindle. I couldn't remember what the thing was called. Amazon. And so I'm gonna have to go through my Kindle,
I married an what is it called?
a mass
An
murderer. No, a mass murderer.
I married a mass murderer book. My husband was a mass murderer.
Oh, my husband was a mass murderer.
But
That's
baby,
what I was messing up.
And the author's name is Latasha McCauley.
There it is, right.
Did you read it on Kindle, Bella?
Yeah.
It's showing up on Bella.
I think she did it in episodes. That's another thing about Bella. You can do the book in episodes, and while you're doing it in episodes, people, you can make money from the episodes. While you're doing that, you're putting your chapters together. At the end of it, you can combine it into one book and sell it as one book. And that's evidently what Latasha McCauley did, or she might have done it in reverse, where she broke it down
I
after
don't
she made
think
it.
Kindle Bella allows you to,
Oh,
if
to
it's
do it in
already been
reverse?
published.
Oh, that's right, they don't. So, yet my husband was a mass murderer.
But anyway, why did I find it with one Google search, baby?
Because I was looking for my husband was or I married a mass murderer.
That's what I put in, baby.
Oh, really? Mine didn't come up like that.
Well, everybody's Google thing is a little different.
Yeah, so yeah, they just didn't want me to find it. But yeah, I recommend that book to anybody.
Really?
Because,
I've never
yeah.
read it. I might read it since it's on Bella.
Yeah, that was pretty good. So well, it's still on my Kindle,
Oh.
so you can just read it straight through. I bought that.
But one of the things that I do like about Bella is like the story I just read. I told you I'd be reading with the side eye.
Uh-huh.
So if I can abandon ship at any time if something is going wrong.
Right.
So if like I started reading somebody's story and then it ended up being I'm not really interested in interracial love. So I just was kind of like, oh, I'm gonna abandon ship on this one. So it was after a couple episodes. I didn't feel bad.
Yeah, there's a few things, and you know what they are, that as soon as I see it in a show or a movie or a book or whatever, I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
Oh, I never heard. Oh, go ahead.
And that's why, like in my writing, in your writing, and the writing of other pro-Black people,
mm-hmm.
I know that I won't run into that. Where I get halfway through the book and I'm invested, and then all of a sudden,
a black gay man.
Yeah, black gay man shows up, and now I'm like, yeah, I'm good. Because no, go ahead, sweetheart.
No, I guess I just kind of feel like we're not the same mind. So there are going to be some things that come out of my mind that maybe you might come across something in my writing where you're like, ugh. Because you come across things in my personality where you're like, ugh. So how do you know for sure?
That's different. That's like that. That's that movie. That's like that movie that we watched that was out of Nollywood. They had that black man on it, and the black guy was gay, right? Mm-hmm. And I could sit and watch that, and it was because I didn't feel insulted. Mm-hmm. Because you're not just like every show you see, you're just hammered with it, hammered disproportionately. Mm-hmm. But it's there are gay black men on earth. Okay, that's it. So that's not. It's not like that's the problem for me as much as it is the hammering. Mm-hmm. Like every time I turn something on, I know that I'm going to see that.
Right.
Or take the gay black man off the table. If I see a black couple, they're going to be dysfunctional.
Right.
That'll make me turn it off.
Right.
Because you're just hammered with it.
Right.
You see a black woman with a white man, hammered with it. Right. A black man with a white woman, right. Hammered with it, and it'll make me turn it off.
Right.
I'm like, what the heck? Yeah. And so it didn't. I'll be honest. When the stuff started first happening, it didn't bother me so much because it wasn't. I didn't feel like I was being hammered with it every time I turned around. But now I'm like, okay, I can see. Yeah, I can see the agenda in it, and I can see what they're doing. Yeah. So,
I understand.
So having said that, going back to, when I'm watching things or reading things, and I get that when I'm reading pro-Black writers, say I could be reading a pro black writer, and if I know about this writer that they're pro black, and say a gay black character popped up,
You
that
feel
would
safe.
I feel safe because it's not. I know it's not going to be like some foolishness. It's just going to be whatever it is. I don't know if that makes any sense.
You said Lorraine Hansberry is not. Well, I said I don't think that a Raisin in the Sun by Lorraine Hansberry. I wouldn't consider her a pro-black writer. So who do you consider when you like? I'm reading these pro-black authors. Who are these pro-black authors that you're reading?
I'll be honest, and I'm not trying to stroke her. Ajali Shabazz, I consider a pro-black writer. I consider oh brother.
Exactly.
What brother? What's the brother? What's his name that wrote Things Fall Apart?
Oh, Chinua Achebe.
Yeah. Which I've only read Things Fall Apart once.
Hey fam, welcome Unsunken One.
Peace, Unsunken One.
Yeah.
And I consider him a pro-black writer.
Okay.
I think that there's such a few because you can find black writers every place.
Right.
They're all over the place.
But you said like, when I'm reading pro-black authors, and I'm like, I need this reading list. Where is this list?
It's interestingly, I'm like thinking about myself and Sister Ajali and you when I think about pro-black, right? And Madam Precious when I read that's what I consider pro-black authors.
Black arts movement. Because I think of the Black arts movement as pro-black artists,
right?
But I don't know if I've read the works. They have Amiri Baraka and Google. They have Amiri Baraka, Langston Hughes, Alice Walker, Maya Angelou. See, I don't even know if I would consider those people to be pro-black.
Right.
But that's
I would, and like I say full chested and full throated that I think that James Baldwin in his way was freaking brilliant. I think he was like one of the most brilliant thought leaders of that era when it came to dissecting and speaking about the issues. But I'm like, dude, when it came to his personal life, I'm like, dude, you're problematic. Mm-hmm. And so I don't consider him as a pro-black writer. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Baldwin, I don't know, but and that's the thing. I'll put it like this though, and this is the interesting dynamic. If I read Baldwin
and didn't know about his personal life,
yeah, except for something like what Giovanni's Room or what. Mm-hmm. If not, I'm not talking about that work. But if I was to read his other works, I'd be like, yeah, this brother's straight up pro-black.
And that's the thing,
which is interesting.
That's not exactly interesting to me. I mean, it is interesting, but I kind of have this thing like now I'm meeting a bunch of people and I don't know who they are. So I'm getting to know them. So I have certain conversations with people and like this one woman I met the other day, we were talking, she was talking about her husband. She's a black woman. She works in tech at a big company. And, I guess the whole time or part of the time we were talking, I was like, I wonder if her husband is black. And then at some point, I did ask her if her husband was black. She's a dark-skinned person. He's a dark-skinned person, according to her. So then I kind of felt like, okay. And then as I've gotten to know her, but I feel like a lot of times you talk to people and they're like, yeah. And like, as you say, throwing the fist up in the air. And then I learn some stuff about them or, see them moving in the world. And I'm like,
right.
So.
Now someone I would consider a pro-black writer, I haven't even read any of his work yet, but I know that he's a pro-black writer. I've seen his work as far as cartooning goes, but he's also a writer. Is Chris Miller is a pro-black writer.
And you feel that because you've heard him on YouTube?
Because I've heard him on YouTube and I've seen his work.
Oh.
And I haven't seen any of his written work, but I've seen his cartooning work.
Right.
And comic book work. I've seen Lance Skirv's work. Mm-hmm. And Lance Skirv, he's pro-black as he can be. And I would consider him a pro-black writer. And he writes articles and so on.
Right.
So.
And I think I'm like a little more cautious and hesitant in terms of, I feel like somebody can be online, somebody can say anything, somebody can write anything, but I'm very curious about who people are and seeing how they live and seeing them over time and throughout space in different contexts. It's difficult for me to, I don't know.
I'm
I'm
like,
more hesitant than you.
yeah, I'm like this though. I don't have a habit of being phony, and I don't have a habit of lying.
Unlike me.
Unlike you. No, she doesn't lie. She's not phony. Uh, but I don't have a habit of lying or being phony, and I tend to look at the world through that lens.
Right.
So I, unless you're just like totally outrageous, I tend to take you at face value until you give me a reason not to.
Right. And I think I'm an astrology person. My moon is in Scorpio, and I think that I do tend to be a cautious person. I want to know not just what's on the top and what somebody's first house and the impression that they want me to have, but I want to kind of have an understanding of who they are at their core. I don't think anybody is perfect, but I don't just because somebody says something, I'm not necessarily inclined to believe them. I don't necessarily think it's a lie, and I think that they could think it's true, but I'm just so
Right.
yeah. Just because I read something that sounds good or someone says something that sounds good,
Right.
I I
So
I still reserve
so
judgment.
I guess it's like this. But for my purposes, say that I'm reading Baldwin, know
Uh-huh.
nothing about him, not Giovanni's room, but reading Baldwin, know nothing about him, reading his articles, whatever, and I'm like, oh, this is pro-black. I guess maybe, and my aunt speaks has done entire um, shows about this. I'm
Mhm.
calling it shows, but builds about
Mhm.
this, where
Mhm.
she talks about celebrity culture.
Mhm.
So what happens when you separate the celebrity from the work?
Mhm.
And so if I read Baldwin, I'm using him because I thought the man was brilliant.
Mhm.
If you separate Baldwin's work from Baldwin's personal life,
Mhm.
then I could safely say, with the exception of Giovanni's room, I keep bringing that up. His work is pro-black,
Mhm.
um, even if he may not be.
So what if someone's work is pro-black and like him, his partner was white, or his partner? It seems like his love
But
interest tended. I don't
well,
know.
right, right.
I don't know, because I
Yeah,
read
what's up with that?
Giovanni's Room and I was kind of like,
It-
whoa. I started reading it, and that was the first of his works that I had read. I saw the film If Beale Street Could Talk, and then I picked up that book just kind of randomly, and I was just sort of, that was not
right.
what I was expecting. And then I did hear later that I guess he was involved with white gay men.
Right.
But I'm like, I don't understand. I don't know. I don't
And
know.
then too, you have someone like Richard Wright,
What
Native
about?
Son. I just read the work. I don't know anything about, and that's one of the reasons I kind of don't like to know a lot about celebrities, because like my aunt speaks has said in there, if you take the meat and throw away the bones, if you're reading the work, then the work itself can be
Inspirational and useful.
inspirational, right, and edifying to you. However, I add this caveat: if you know someone has an agenda, they could be slipping poison pills in that
Right.
you don't know. So
Right.
there's that aspect of it also,
Right.
which is another reason that I want to, I like pro-black authors. I want to find pro-black authors and so on.
I feel like we kind of answered the question. I don't know how much longer you're going to go, but I also kind of feel like this is not. I used to love some Nina Simone. She is a singer.
Uh-huh.
Love Nina Simone, and then I read her autobiography, and I'm like, and this is the way that I felt. I thought this woman is kind of crazy. And then I couldn't when I would listen to her music, I was just like, she's kind of crazy. And so I was nervous about the poison pill that was being slipped in, like just like I used to listen to Sade all the time. And then I was like, wait a second, I'm not, all her stuff is sad, I'm not really sad, I don't want to internalize this. But I just got nervous about Nina Simone's work and stopped listening to it. I couldn't
Uh-huh.
really relax and enjoy it. But then years later, I've come back to it, and I just love her work, even though I feel like, and none of us are perfect,
Right.
but I
Well,
love
speak for
her
yourself.
work. Oh, I'm sorry. None of us except for my husband is perfect.
No, I'm
Excuse
not.
me, pardon me.
No, if you had perfect right here, and then there was a point furthest from it, that's where I would be.
Mhm.
That furthest point.
Anyway,
But
anyway, cut it out.
but yeah, I like I like Nina Simone. There's some people that when I start learning about them, I'm like, yeah, let me stop because I don't want to dislike this person. I don't know if you've ever dealt with that.
But I kind of feel like, I guess, as a kneecap to kneecap, eyeball to eyeball, I want to feel your vibe, not necessarily smell your breath, but we share in the same air. I kind of feel like what is most inspirational to me, or what has been most inspirational to me, is people where I can see how they're living, how they're how the talk shows up in their life.
Right.
There's something to be said for just hearing a quote or reading something and it sounds good and it's inspirational. But I'm really excited when I see people who have taken their ideas and operationalized them in their life, from what I can see. Um,
And there is
what is a caver without a caver? I'm brokenhearted that she was without a caver.
oh, she was with a caver, a caveman.
Oh, I learned
Neanderthal.
so much whenever I come on to YouTube.
Life imitates art. She spoke, and her music came from a place of pain.
Right, and you can
My
definitely,
speaks.
yes. Nina, I love her. It's like her voice, the tone, the energy. I got you. I caught up. My husband helped me. Nina Simone's voice, the tune, the energy, the vibration. It's like I feel her. And she definitely, she had some. We all have work and stuff to work
Right.
on. So.
And we draw from it. We draw from it in our experiences.
Mhm.
Like when you read Melanin, you'll learn a lot about what my views are.
Mhm.
If you read, brother, I just a Person Zero
Mhm.
or Scars.
Mhm.
My viewpoints will be in that.
Mhm.
Gonna do a quick commercial. If you're not already, if you're not already registered, be sure and register for the Reading and Writing in the Dark newsletter. Excuse me, newsletter. It's the Reading and Writing in the Dark newsletter. I put it out every month at the beginning of the month. It's absolutely free, and it just keeps you up on uh, what I'm working on and what I feel like is going on in the world of Black literature, right? And also the when you register for the newsletter, you get a free PDF of Moanissus, the Oak Tree. Heard nothing but good things about that.
That's because people
story.
won't tell you anything else.
No. Everybody who's read it, with the exception of the woman that I'm sitting with, said that she cried. Said that they cried when they read it. And I shed tears while I was writing it. And then Angela read it stone faced as she could be.
You didn't watch me read it.
I know. I'm exaggerating. And I think she's the only one that said she didn't cry when she read it. But I'm not. Yeah, well, I guess I am trying to make the reader cry when I'm. But you get a free short story of Moanissus, the Oak Tree. That is actually from the Paradigm Void, the book of short stories compilation that I'm putting out. And right now, all the books that are keeping it a buck, I'm calling books, the short stories, keeping it a buck, short reads on Amazon are each a buck a piece, and they're all from the Paradigm Void book. So there you go. You're up.
Oh, I don't have anything to say. I was trying to look up Keeping It a Buck and put the link in the thing. Oh, and I was gonna. The last thing, I wasn't really happy with my reading, but I was gonna read the descriptions.
Oh, go ahead.
I have to find them first.
For the stories in Paradigm Void?
No, not in Paradigm Void, in the Keeping It a Buck series.
Oh, Keeping It a Buck. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So, well, there's that. I think that it is so important, and this is I still want to go back to giving Gwen B credit for this. And I put the link in earlier. I'll put it in again. She did a video that was called, and let me see if I'm already on it. No, I'm not already on it. I have to go back to it. No, I am on it. The Future of Pro-Black Literature. And I'll put the link in the chat again of that. She just really broke down the difference between just Black writing or Black stories and pro-Black stories and pro-Black writing. And it was just really educational for me and got me on this train of thought. So when you do that, not only check out that video, but also um, subscribe to her channel.
I had a difficult time finding the Keeping It a Buck series because I typed in keeping it a buck.
Yeah,
and
it's
it's
keeping it a buck. Uh-huh.
keeping it a buck.
Keeping it a buck.
Yeah. So what an amazing analysis. Yeah, I thought
Yeah,
it was
what an
some,
amazing
there was some
analysis.
interesting perspective on there. I feel like there was one thing that I didn't agree with, but I can't remember. But most of it, I was like, yeah, this is, I agree. Yeah, this is, it gave me,
Yeah,
it's good food for thought.
and as I say, I'm suspicious, and I mean this. It sounds like I'm like just saying it, but I'm suspicious of anybody who totally agrees with anything I say. Just 100% agrees, because that would be weird to me.
Okay.
Because I don't agree with everything everybody says. I mean, you come from different backgrounds
What
and
if you
views
were in
and
a
all this.
singing the blues session? That's clause 2. You have to be a guest person.
Well, that doesn't mean that you agree with it in spirit. You could just be agreeing with
Yes.
them, letting them have a
Yes,
shoulder to
baby.
lean on.
Yes, baby.
Exactly.
Yes, baby.
Exactly. And that now, see the way that you keep practicing that, because that sounded sweet to me.
Keeping It a Buck series, 2 books, which are 2 short stories. 10 short stories in 10 weeks. Each one $1. In the realm of theoretical Evan fiction where anything is possible. Pro-Black authors take control of our own narrative, present our point of view, and make sure we're keeping it a buck, both literally and figuratively. Each of these fantastic tales from time, space, and beyond imagination are written for Black audiences who want to read stories that are for us, about us, and by Black people who love, honor, and respect us. Some of the stories are relatively tame, while others are strictly for adult readers due to the subject matter, language, and/or sexual or violent content. There will be an advisory noted prominently before purchasing the story containing such subject matter. All of that said, it is now time to buckle up and prepare to enter into the paradigm. Boy, I think you should make the buck big, like buck, keeping it a buck, buckle up. That's just my editorial opinion. Babe, did you put a
Thank you
warning
for that
in Scar-
unsolicited. In scars?
Yeah, because there was an attempted.
Yeah,
scene.
yeah, but it was. I don't.
Oh.
Yeah, the stuff that I'm talking about gets like really graphic.
Okay.
But that scene in Scars isn't really that graphic. Not to me. Maybe it would be to somebody.
Right.
To me, it wasn't. I'm going to put a link to 25,000yearcycle.net in the chat room. That is where you can find Anjali Shabaz's work. She is the author of This Black is sequel, This Black Nation, and the nonfiction Furnace of Affliction. All available on both Amazon.com and at 25,000 Year Cycle. If you get it at 25,000yearcycle.net, you will receive it at a substantial discount. So that's the advertisement for that.
All right, good job. So, are we finished with the conversation? We answered the story. I mean, the question. I think, what are pro-Black authors?
Right. I was trying to wait and give my aunt Speaks a chance to come in
Okay.
because I I just really appreciate her viewpoint. but
And
I'm wondering why Anjali Shabazz is not entering this conversation to talk about
salad, smiling all day to spend playing on YouTube.
She can eat a salad anytime. How often do you get to speak with the author of Melanin, a novel, and be on the same panel with the author of I Declare Love? How often do you get that opportunity in life?
A mess.
Then we got Hood Mistress out here, and she's out here working, and nobody knew it. I hadn't the slightest idea, but I'm definitely going to start promoting your work, Hood Mistress. And I just thank you so much for letting us know you're out here. Mm-hmm. I say there's a lot of us out here who write and just are not, nobody knows we're out here. Like, that's part of the thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think getting it up is a challenge. Like writing writing the story can be a challenge, or the book getting it up can be a challenge. But I feel like promoting is definitely, connecting with the people who would appreciate and love your work. So, is a challenge. Can be a challenge for some. So. Yeah, right. He's trying to starve you out, not me.
What you talking about? Let's see. Sister Anjali just wrote just an hour ago for one, and Sister Angela is on my side. Sister Angela, how do you hang the toilet paper?
The right way.
Which is?
I'm going to keep that private. Right. When you come into my bathroom, you'll see.
Right, and you'll see that it's hung right. We present a united front here. We are highly trained and educated personnel here. So anyway, sis, you don't want to just pop your head in for a minute and mention something, because on the last show, well, that's the thing is on the last share. She talked about her work, but it was a different kind of a share. Mm-hmm. And this one I'm going to be sharing on this platform. I'm also going to put it on Reading and Writing in the Dark, mm-hmm. for the YouTube channel, and give a link on the Twitter. So I just like for her to have the opportunity in her own words to speak about her work. But if she doesn't want to come up here, it's fine. I know the sister ain't got stage fright.
Right. She may want to come up, but have other things she also wants.
Oh, she's going to have a mouthful of salad?
Or whatever. She might want to just chill. Is that okay?
So, speaking of, what's for dinner?
Beans. You can't smell them?
Uh-huh. You going to make rice?
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay. Oh, I meant to get some broccoli today.
Well, the store is right.
Right. Oh, okay. Well, that's off the subject. So we discussed the writing. Has everybody gotten kind of a, because we've talked about a lot of things as far as the main topic goes. Does anybody? This is what's kind of hard about the chat. Does anybody have any specific thoughts about the difference between Black authors and pro-Black authors, and if there's a difference at all? I wouldn't consider. I wouldn't consider Oprah Winfrey a pro-Black author.
Has she written something?
Yeah, she's written.
I didn't even know she wrote.
Or I think she did.
I don't know.
But if she did, I would. Would you consider Alice Walker a pro-Black author?
I don't know. I would have to reread her work as an adult and with the consciousness that I have now. Well, I was about 18, I think, when I read her. Well, there's only one book that I know of, The Color Purple, and I've seen the movie like once, and then I saw it once again. And I know for you, that's like a very upsetting story. When I read the story and watched the movie, I didn't find it to be upsetting or offensive at all. I don't know if with a renewed consciousness I would or I wouldn't.
Yeah.
What's her name? Alice Walker?
Yeah, Alice Walker.
Oh, is it Alice Walker who wrote that? Now that's a whole different subject, because I did some work with her daughter, and her daughter has a Jewish father. So I would say no, she's not a pro-black.
Pro-black. Okay. Who wrote? She said no to Alice. Okay, let me ask you this: is Zane a pro-black?
I've never read any Zane, but looking at her book covers, I'm like, is this the Zane that black people be talking about, or is this somebody else?
Right, but here's the thing: is Zane in control of her covers?
I don't know.
And maybe she is.
I have no idea. Zane writer, Zane author. Let me look at some of these covers. The ones you had.
Yes, Sister Anjali, you probably wouldn't know who's that. She's
supposed to be like erotica and like all this. So I'm looking at one cover and it's got a black woman on it. I mean, black people have sex. And then I'm looking at another cover. But when you were looking at covers, so all of the ones I'm looking at have black people on them.
Right.
So now I don't have an opinion because I haven't read her work.
Right. I'm gonna get some water.
Okay.
Go on and nail it down for
Zane is very X-rated. Oh, not just a little bit X-rated. Negro erotica. No, I don't do Negro erotica.
Well, that's the thing. The one of hers that I read wasn't erotica at all.
Oh, right. That's why we were kind of confused. Jordan Peele is disqualified. He came out of The Enemy. Oh. And then also, I kind of feel like that's another question. Can you be pro-black and biracial? And I guess I would say no. But I feel like you need another. I would need another term for biracial people who are for and identify as black or identify with the black part. But I don't know. I mean, Radical Sister said no. There were some interracial stories that Zane wrote that turned me off. Yeah.
Sister Anjali, besides me or yourself or Angela, who do you consider to be a pro-black author?
I don't think the Radical Sister has read any of my. Biracials aren't black. Yeah, I definitely don't consider biracials black. But like Jordan Peele is biracial, so I wasn't even putting him in the category of pro-black because.
That's true.
Yeah, he's not black. So yeah, if people have pro-black like writers that they consider to be pro-black, that would be cool to like drop the names and the titles in the chat so that we can find some stuff to read and maybe vet it and evaluate it ourselves to determine if we agree or disagree.
Right. Now I do enjoy Brandon Massey's work, and he's married to a black woman, and I enjoy his work. I don't know about his politics or his personal life. From what I read of his work reads pro-black, like mine. Like there are white people in his stories, but they're not the heroes. They're not the main characters. His main characters tend to center around black people. So I like Brandon Matthews' work.
Right. I was loving J. California Cooper. I love her work. But we got a book. You gave me a novel, Ayako. One of her, and I was reading like the foreword or something, and something she said like, can't all people just get along? I don't know, something she said that felt very multicultural to me, and I couldn't even bring myself to read the book. And I have gone back and read some of her short stories because I still really enjoy them, but I wouldn't consider her pro-black.
It says Sister Soldier.
I know. I agree with Sister Soldier. Did you see my comment?
Right.
No, you didn't see my comment?
Right. I didn't. My Aunt Speaks is in the house.
Wow, you held out. You held out.
Right. I don't have fancy stuff, so like you don't have like the roar of hand claps here.
Oh, wait.
Thank you. Peace to y'all. I love y'all's back and forth. It's great. I love it.
Well, we're gonna give you the mic and let you tell it because we're getting hoarse over here.
No, so I was just kind of thinking about that, the whole idea of you know, uh if you can be pro-black, in like the pro-black writers and things like that. So I think the issue that I kind of have with it, and it goes back to what we were talking about with the code, is just that we don't have a sort of code for how we what we consider, how we're kind of questioning it, like, can you be pro-black, like right pro-black, but you are sleeping, like you're sleeping white, or the different things that happen within that. Because I think what happens is when we don't create that, we don't have like that code and culture, or we have different viewpoints, then it kind of creates that atmosphere, that environment where anybody can write our stories. Because take for instance the biracial. So if we have determined that it means you can write pro-black, but you don't have to necessarily sleep black. And so if you say that, and then someone comes from that union is biracial, then it's kind of like that kind of opens the door for two sides of it, right? So it opens the door for others to come in and start telling our stories. So I don't necessarily have an answer for it, but I think it is worth discussing, because I was talking to a friend the other day, and I was saying, when it comes to building a code and kind of moving on that code, that's something that you cannot necessarily do in the YouTube space or social media space. And then there's this whole thing, you know, uh, when Brother Diallo Kenyatta was on Hanifa's channel, and he was kind of saying, well, you build that code in a sense on the micro. You can't necessarily do it on the macro yet, but you build it kind of on the micro level. So how I live my life can be in a certain, you move in a certain way where people know that they can't violate certain codes within you. And then as we start moving more as a unit, then it spreads out to the macro, it spreads out to the larger community. So
Right.
that's kind of my kind of my thoughts, just my thoughts on it, because I do understand there are some people that you read their literature, and it sounds very much pro-black, but then I think how you live your life, your environment, it does creep into it. Because even going back to like someone like Nina Simone, when she spoke about, because she had trauma from a black man in her life, right? It also gave credence to what she ended up being with, but
Right.
also how she spoke about other black, or how she spoke about black men in general. And
Mhm.
then on top of that, it ended up creating some type of discourse, like with her child and things like that. So it ends up affecting the larger community, even if it doesn't seem like it, because people can then point back to your ideology or your politics or the way that you live your life if we don't create that code.
I I I tend to agree with you. That's when it comes to the code. The only person who I know of who has actually written down a code is Neely Fuller,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and even within that though, I have a feeling like white people have a code, even if it's an unwritten code. They live by it and they know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Our people, as you were alluding to, and I agree, we we don't we're just all over the board. We're just all over the board, and
Mm-hmm.
those are the things that lead people to say that there's no such thing as pro-black or no black community and different things like that, is because we're just so all over the board. But I submit that there is there is a such thing as pro-black, and there is a black community. We just haven't figured out how to define it yet. And once we define it,
Hello. Well, so I guess hopefully they'll be back. Let's see. So oh, okay, there you go.
thank you for holding it down, sis. And that will I don't know if you was still there for the last live stream. That will happen sometime, and just where we live, it just happens sometimes.
Yeah, I get it.
So thank you for holding it down. I can't even remember what I was in the middle of saying.
The last word I heard you say was define, if we define it.
Oh, right. If we're able to define it, see, and actually something that my wife and I don't quite see eye to eye on, and oh good, I'm glad you're still standing here. Uh, don't quite see eye to eye on this when we talk in terms of the consequences of going quote unquote off code. And and Angela, right? But what I'm saying though is, even though there's not a code right now, there's still some things that are just you shouldn't do them. Right? You shouldn't do it, and there should be consequences behind it. Like if I'm a black person and every chance I get, I'm I'm doing a Candace Owens every chance I get, then there needs to be a consequence to it. Now, what we have a discussion about or bump heads about, I don't even know if we bump heads, but it's nuance, is well, what do you mean by consequences? What you're gonna do? And it's a fair question. It's a fair question. What's your thoughts on that, Sister Ma'at?
Yeah, I think that um that's an I think it begins with the internal, right? Like that's an internal thing. So I think about how we view relationships, like quote unquote romantic relationships. And there's a lot of conversations where we don't put up with certain things in those types of relationships. Like, you talk to your friend and you say, hey, like this guy did me this way. We're just kind of like, oh no, you should leave. But what happens is that we end up, when it comes to like familial relationships, like within our family unit, people will do things to us, because I think we have to understand that we love community. We love we're communal people. So I think what happens is we are afraid, with the little community that we do have. I think we're afraid to kind of quote unquote turn on one another. You're like, well, we all we got, in a sense.
That's
um
fair.
so what happens is we tend not to want to like a relationship, even though it's not necessarily they're doing things that are not beneficial to the collective. So I think we have a hard time with that. You know, that's why a lot of people don't want to deprogram from certain organizations or certain things, whatever, you know, these different programmings you have. Like there are people who, you know, they will never leave their church that they grew up at, you know, because it's like turning away from the first community I ever had. So I think it is uh, a personal thing first, because you have to start by asking yourself questions. I talked about this on my channel before, like morality. What is morality? Morality is linked to what is helpful to you, your family, and your community. That is what true morality is. And
Wow.
so if you're going against that, then in essence, you are immoral to yourself. You're immoral. So even when you talk about a relationship, no matter if it's between a man and a woman, it's your friendship, it's your family, if it's detrimental to you first, you're being immoral to yourself. If it's detrimental to your family, then you're being immoral to your family. And if it's detrimental to your community, then you're being immoral towards your community. So we have to start by looking at it at a personal level first. And then we end up connecting with our family, our communities, and saying, okay, now that we understand what it is personally, how do we create that code on a community level? And we have to understand that a lot of times we're trying to do something, like we're trying to do it where it's too big. Like we're trying to hold everybody accountable all over the world, when you start by holding the people accountable just in your family and community first. But again, that's hard for us. That's difficult for us because we don't want to walk away from people that we grew up with or who's in our family. We don't even want to call that out. So let alone calling out people on a major scale. So that is the problem. I think it's more of an internal thing first. So I know there are things in my life that I'm just not going to put up with, you know, and that can be hard because some people who hurt you the most are the ones that are closest to you.
Mhm.
And so then once we get that, then you start looking at your family. Because most people, if someone does something to your child, you're like, oh no, you know, you're ready to fight. So we have to start thinking about that on a community level. How do we look at that on a community level where you're saying this person is not good for our community? It's not advancing our community. It's actually doing the reverse. So we have to look at it like that and understand that there are people that you can connect with that are like-minded who want to advance the community. So that's kind of how I look at it.
That is awesome. So you want me to turn it off?
Yeah, because the
Okay.
power went out.
Okay. Sister Maya, every time that I'm on a panel where you're there, or even if I'm in the chat and listen, you just drop so much wisdom. You said something that really resonated with me. And just when you were talking about the fact that some of us are reluctant to
Mm-hmm.
really hold some of our people accountable, what whatever that looks like for my wife,
Right. Right.
or to shut them up because we're already so few in number.
Mm-hmm.
That dovetails with the whole one droppers and everything. And you have also this faction that we just want to include everybody.
Right. Right.
Power numbers.
Right.
Yeah, the wrong numbers.
Right, and
are-
saying there's power in numbers. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say the wrong numbers are, you know, if the wrong people are in those numbers, there's not power in it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right,
That's true.
because you have someone like Colin Kaepernick, and I'm like, dude, thank you for taking that stand, but you're not us. You know, you're not black. You're biracial. There's nothing wrong with being biracial. If you're biracial, you're biracial. But you know, everybody wants to include everybody as being black. Everybody's black. I have heard some of our people trying to like say that there's some straight up white people who are black.
Right, right.
And
But
it's just
that's where the issue comes in. When you start accepting everything, then anybody can kind of come to the cookout.
exactly, exactly what Angela said. When you said you don't have a barbecue to invite anybody to. So so that's all that. Hey, that's I get what she's saying, and I you know
But
when
I definitely think, like, for example, in the context, what I literally do is with the Black Writers Group, for example,
uh-huh,
I, in the community of Black people that I'm in, I promote it as a Black Writers Group.
right,
And I usually will have something in the tagline, Black writers supporting Black writers, writing for Black us, or something to try to weed out the people who would come, because there are Black people in this community who would come who are married to white people, who love white people, who, want to push, a white or a less off,
right.
a certain. And so I feel like in that context, I try to filter out who I invite to that barbecue picnic.
You're right, barbecue.
To the
Well,
cookout. I
Because,
try to filter who I invite to that cookout because I have
right.
total control over that.
So
because
I have a question about that. So when it comes, because I know a lot of us we don't say, we might think it like we might think like this is for Black people, but we don't necessarily say it. So is there something you do when you do see, or have you experienced this? Like
Mm-hmm.
where there are white people who are trying, because I know white people, they will see something that is for Black people and they still will try to join.
oh yeah,
So
They especially want to join if they think it's just for Black. White. I mean, it's for
exactly,
Black people. They're
exactly.
there so they can manage us. Shoot.
And we no, we very specifically let them know.
Well, and let me just say this: in this community, there are bulletin boards, virtual bulletin boards that I can post to that are for the whole community, and I don't post to them. I only post in Black spaces or
Right.
spaces that are theoretically Black. Although I know that there is a lot of they can be Black without being pro-Black. But we had one woman who was coming to the group who was Indian,
Person of color, uh-huh.
right? And she considered and I didn't quite know how to handle it because as a person, she seemed like a nice enough person. But I kept saying, like, when she was the writer of the week, I asked her, so do you consider yourself Black? And she said she considers herself Black. But again, maybe by not having a specific code, by not having rules in place, there was not really any way. She eventually filtered away, but there was not really any way for me to exclude her. We kept the conversation focused on what the conversation is, but it made me feel very uncomfortable, and I didn't exactly know how to address that particular issue. I've never had a white person show up. We've never had a white person show
Should I
up.
bring up
You can bring up,
I'll leave it alone. I'll just put it like this: we were having a Kwanzaa, we were doing Kwanzaa, and a white person showed up to it.
who was invited by someone who was there. It was day 6 or something. It was Kaumba Creativity. And we had spent day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5 talking about Black people building with Black people for Black people. So it seemed kind of clear to me that this is not a space that we would invite white people to. But again, there was no specific code. There was no description or statement that this is a space only for, Black people.
Right. And when it happened, nobody said, "Oh, get out or leave," or nobody did that. But it did change. It didn't for me. It changed, like for everybody else. Everybody was a little more guarded about what they said, or a little more guarded about what they read.
Right.
There were people reading poetry, and I was sitting there telling them, I was like, speak your speech. Read whatever I had to say or do. I said as if they weren't sitting there, because that's just how I roll.
And it's a double-edged sword because on the other hand, I feel like there is something to be said for being wise about what you say in front of whom.
Yeah.
True enough. I didn't bite my tongue because I was like, what? Because that would have messed it up for me.
And as the writers group is evolving, one of the things that is one of the things that I do want to specify, speaking of code, is sometimes we have people who will post in the group who are posting non-writing things, and sometimes we've literally had people post up like, you know, a white face here or there, which, you know, that there's nothing explicit to say that you can't. But as the facilitator of the group, I'm not a fan of that. So I'm thinking of, you know, laying out and, you know, kind of how we do things around here,
Right.
so that when stuff like that happens, I can say, oh, well, if you refer to our code, this is not permitted, unfortunately, or fortunately. Bye bye.
Mhm.
Right.
And I also think that we have to establish it anyway with us first before we can even keep others out. You know, we're going to have to establish that with us. So it's hard to say, well, you stay out if we don't even have a code in place.
Right.
So,
You,
mhm.
you know, sis, you're absolutely right, because were there a code in place, and at the same time, I'll put it like this: were there a code in place and everybody knew it, then that, I'm calling it an incident, would have never happened.
Mhm.
But I think that there's some things that are just like implicitly, you're like,
Right. You
I'm
would
like,
think.
brother, what do you, because you know, it's like, what are you thinking?
Mhm.
You know, that's like somebody having a clan rally and bringing somebody black with them. They're like, dude, what are you thinking?
Right.
You
Right.
know, and there's some things that are just implied. I shouldn't have to even tell you that.
Well,
So
in the
go ahead.
aftermath of that, the person who invited the person, you know, the white, I had a conversation with them. I apologized to everyone who had been coming to the event regularly. It was a small group of us. It was like 4 or 5 people.
Right.
But I just kind of felt like, yeah, in the aftermath, you know, there was some stuff that happened. So I don't know if it would happen again this year, if it will, you know, if it would happen again this year, because, you know, there was a discussion, but who knows?
Right.
Because the person was an elder, therefore the person
Right.
is an elder.
Right.
Mhm.
I will say this: when it comes to my writing, I'll let Angela speak for her own writing. But when it comes to my writing, I'm always talking about taking control of our narrative. I think that's one of the places. I think that there are many fires to put out, and
Mhm.
many places. You know, everybody has their lane.
Mhm.
My lane is getting control of our narrative, because our entire experience in the United States is about someone else controlling our narrative,
Yeah.
and for us to love ourselves, and then by extension love other black people, we
Mhm.
have to have a view of ourselves that's not skewed, have a view of ourselves that's not
Mhm.
all jacked up and fed to us by people who hate us. And so that's what I intend to do with my writing. That's what I do to the best of my ability with it, and will continue to do, because that is so very, very important to me. Getting control of our narrative, because once we do that, we could actually develop a code based upon loving ourselves and loving each other. And once we love ourselves and love each other, we stop shooting each other. We stop cheating on each other. We stop taking 40 pieces of silver to turn on each other, and so
Mhm.
on. So that's my thoughts. You have the mic, Sister Mai.
Yeah, I agree with that because I think what happens, I said this before, it's an outward inward thing when it should be an inward outward. And
Mhm.
so a lot that's why I am against, you know, a lot of the movies that we see, a lot of the writings that come from white authors and just, you know, white screenwriters,
Mm-hmm.
even directors, because what happens is they're painting an image that they want us to accept. And
Right.
so we accept those images and then we portray them in our communities, as opposed to if we're, we're handling the writing and we are handling the image, then we can better, there's some, there's still some things, Yorugu, but there are some, we are better at taking that and then we put that on paper and then it goes out into our communities, as opposed to us taking it from the outside and then projecting it into our communities, because that's why a lot of Black women are seen as the angry Black woman, or the Jezebel, or the woman that emasculates her men, because that is what they portrayed to us for so long. Just
Right.
like Black men being seen as abusive, cheaters, things like that. That's what they portrayed to us for so long. So now we're just imitating that, right? So now that's the life imitating the art, because of how we have, because they controlled it for so long. They controlled everything that we were seeing. And so now we are portraying that into our communities. So it's very important that we start writing our own, because then that also develops what you're speaking about. It develops the love that we have for one another. If we see more love in our art, and then in the books, the movies, the television shows,
Mhm.
then what does that do for us? Then we're gonna start actually imitating that, and then that is what we need to go into our communities. So it's one of those things. It's why a lot of us have YouTube channels, right? We're
Uh-huh.
trying to change some of the things, but we are, like the Radical Sisters even talking of, she was saying in the chat, that is what we're up against. We're up against the images that are negative. We're up against the toxicity. So we just have to, we have to reach who we can reach.
Right.
But we are up against that, and that is what, and because we absorb so much toxicity, we actually, we think we enjoy it. So we gravitate to the toxicity.
Mhm. Sister Ma, I've been like raving and big upping that video you and Sister Hanifa did. I can't say enough good about that. I mean, if anyone who hasn't watched it can't know what I'm talking about. I mean, so I mean, when you see Black men like big up in Black women big up in Black Black men and women big up in Black people. I mean, that is a very healing thing, and you wouldn't think it would be as powerful as it is. I mean, you would think, oh man, that sounds nice, but it was powerful. It was powerful. It's in line with what you were talking about. It's like we internalized all this crap. We have become tropes unto ourselves, and because of accepting other people's narrative of us, and it's a negative narrative. But then when you start to hear that you're valued, that you're valuable, that you're beautiful, that you're strong, that you're intelligent, and on and on and on, and it just keeps going and keeps going. And it's true, and it's more than just stroking each other. We're we're saying these things from the heart because this is what we believe. This is what I believe of our women. This is what I believe of my beautiful wife. This is what I believe of my sisters and queens. This is what we believe of our kings and and our husbands and our brothers and fathers and sons and mothers and I mean it just goes on and this is what we really feel as opposed to this toxic little square that we're presented with. And like someone like you, Sister Ajali, um, myself, my wife, we when we come out with messages, that stuff, Sister Hanifa, these things are like suppressed and pushed down. But then if it's a bunch of toxicity, it's given a blowhorn. They're given blowhorns and
Hmm.
promoted. and paid and so on. And so it really does take work, and it takes an understanding that you are in a war, whether you know it or not. You are in a war, and you
Right.
are in a battle.
That's 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 true. And it's something that you just said that really that we have to understand because it goes back to, the whole idea of code because what happens is they most people are rewarded for the
Mhm.
toxicity.
Right,
So, a lot of us we kind of end up engaging in it more because we see the reward. That's why, I've been having the conversation centering around capitalism because in essence, we're talking about within capitalism, we're talking about being rewarded for the toxicity. So, that plays a lot into how we even treat one another, but how we continue to let others because the others, the others that don't look like us, they're being rewarded for telling our stories. That's why I had such a huge issue with the Woman King, because we're rewarding them and then like I said before, there's poison in the cookies. You know?
right.
Mhm.
And, and my wife probably tired of hearing me say it, but the Woman King. If the stars of the movie, if every single star of the movie was black, if the director was black, if the producer
Mhm.
was black, if the production company was black, if everything all the way down to craft services was black, and I knew the two white women wrote it, which they did,
Mhm.
that is enough for me not to go watch it.
Right, right.
Full stop. So I, this new one that Will Smith is coming out with. A white man wrote that,
Mm,
and
mhm.
it's supposed to be our story.
Right,
Uh,
right.
till yeah, there's two black people, right? But if you look at the first credit, is a white guy. That's enough to keep me from going to see it
Mhm. Mhm.
because I'm tired. I'm tired of white people telling our stories. And when it when it comes to capitalism, I'm going to try to say this and not get off on a tangent. But when it comes to capitalism, and my wife, Angela probably get tired of hearing me say it because she listens to me say this stuff all day. Angela, I'm gonna say a little aside. Angela will be in the bedroom and she'll be like enjoying life. And here I come. And another thing, you know what? With she'll be just laying there and just enjoying life, relaxing, enjoying life. And then I'll be like, and talking some black power, which she got no problem with that. But it's like, bro, Ayapo, do you ever stop? Like, no. But anyway, when it comes to capitalism, I was thinking back on the questions I was asked when I was on Brother Omawale's uh, live stream, and the brother said because I was talking about us separating from this capitalist system,
Mhm.
and any time that you approach anybody, this is what I'm starting to find. Anytime that you approach people with, we need to separate from this system, we need to do something absolutely new, or what, the first thing that they'll come at you with is, well, what's your plan? How you plan to do
Right, right. Uh-huh.
it? And I realized something yesterday, and it was an epiphany for me. It might have been actually this morning, but I was like, if I were talking to a woman who is a battered woman, her husband's been beating her, and at any time the next beating could mean her death, right?
Mhm.
And she said to me, Ayapo, I'm leaving. It would never enter my mind in my wildest nightmares to say to her, well, what you plan on doing? Where you plan on going?
Right.
How you going to take care of yourself? That wouldn't even enter my mind to ask.
Mhm. That happens though. They do say that.
because because the
Mhm.
because the because the problem is that you're in this system,
Mhm. Yep.
and whether 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 I know the answer or not, whether we're able to figure it out quickly or not, or whatever, will never change that leaving this system is the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Full stop. You have the mic.
Yes, with welcome.
Oh, peace, just do it. Thank
I'll
you for
just
coming.
do it.
Being here.
Yeah, that's my husband.
Oh,
Peace,
peace.
hubby.
Oh, okay. See, and now I'm about to put some respect on his name. Talking about, I was like talking sideways to him the other day.
Oh,
No, I wasn't.
I know you weren't.
I want to jump in
Thank you.
in a moment.
Come on, you want to jump in now, or
Yeah, I want to jump in.
okay? Angela, get ready to jump in.
I just want to look back to this idea of being rewarded. Like, you know, and something that Ayapo says that I really have appreciated is this idea that, you know, they have set up a system where money is the ultimate. If you don't have money, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have money, then nobody want to hear what you got to say. You know, if you're not successful, meaning money, you know. And so when you were talking about being rewarded, I kept thinking about all of the rewards of being in alignment with myself, all of the rewards of being in alignment with truth and justice. Like, there are so many rewards that are outside of the monetary system. And I think the reason why, you know, I can kind of tune into them is because I've tuned out as much as possible, and I'm tuning out more and more and more from that value system where it's like everything is money.
That's good. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. That lack of value system.
Oh,
and
right.
And the thing is, when you base everything on money, you have to do two things. When it comes to quote unquote divestors, if you have someone talking about, well, if they don't have this, I'll put it like this, because I've heard this in the divestment community. All the, you know, well, they won, and black men have been subjugated, and they have been, and we've lost as a people, and so on. What you're saying? Okay, so what are you saying to the youth? What are you saying to young people?
Mm-hmm.
What you're saying is, I don't care how you got it. All that matters is that you got it. I don't care that you got it by kidnapping of people, by torturing them, by raping them, by forcing them to work with no pay, by shutting them out of systems, by oppressing them, by colonizing them. Lying, cheating, stealing, killing, all that. I don't care about all that. All I care about is that you got it. And
right.
So if I'm teaching that, if that's what a young person is seeing, a young black person is seeing, they're picking up on that. They're saying, well, they don't care how I get it. If I have to go out and rob somebody and bust them upside the head with something, or steal it, or whatever I have to do, all they care about is whether I got it or not, because that's what they're saying. That's what they're saying.
And then plus, when you talk about it, all you're talking about is money. What about having character? What about having honor?
Absolutely.
What about having dignity? I mean, what about a whole bunch of other it's you can have that don't have nothing to do with money?
Right.
Welcome, yeah.
Welcome.
And that's what was frustrating me about the conversation the other day, is because when we're talking about high value men, and there's no character work. All you have to do is lead with your money, you know, and even on the woman side, there's no real work on that side as well, because all you have to do is say, well, the man is leading me, and if he does not have any money, I'm free to leave.
Right.
You know, so there's not a lot of work going on in a society where you are just everyone. The value system is in the money, in the dollar, or you know, you're only valuable if you are at a certain status. You know, so what are we working towards as a community if that's it? You know, so I have a, you know, I take issue with that, when we don't evolve the conversation as far as, you know, how our relationships should be looking, e- especially for the next generation, you know,
Right.
because if we're constantly talking about high value men and their value is in money, then one, that dehumanizes our men for one,
Right.
but it also means that there's no character there. You know, there's no inner work that really has to go on. All you have to do is have a certain dollar sign, and that's it. You know, so I take issue with that conversation and how some of us don't want to evolve it. And then when you start talking about those things, because no one is saying resources and money are not important, we're just saying that's not it. That's not the only thing, you know, because when it comes down to it, there are a lot of things that will come. There are a lot of things that will come and go. You know, if you've been in a long relationship, you know that there are ups and downs in a relationship.
Right.
So I'm not going to tie my husband's worth to how much money he makes.
Right. And, and that's the thing. You can ask very pointedly, okay, I married this man because he's high value, because he's making 6 or 7 figures. And so what happens if something, and someone asks pointedly in another bill, somebody else's bill, well, what happens if something happens to him? His sister Hanifa, as a matter of fact, and said, well, what if something happens and
Hmm.
this man can't work anymore? Or if you base everything on looks, maybe like in like 50 years, I'm not going to be devastatingly handsome like I am right now. And so what's my wife going to do? She
Leave.
going but if you had, like, when you get to like passport bros and stuff, and everything's based upon a woman's figure, and she has a
Right, right.
what about her character? What kind of a person is she? She's not going to look like that in 75 years. And then what?
Mhm.
She's not going to look like that. She's not going to might not look like that in 20 or 30 years. And then what? What if she gets in an accident?
Then he's gonna go
And
on to the next woman.
right, right. Just like if the man loses his money, move on to the next one. If the woman loses her looks, move on to the next one. Admittedly, by the standard of some, neither me nor my wife would be what people would consider "quote unquote" high value man, a high value man, a high value woman.
Well, I
They
think I
don't
would consider high
print.
value.
Well, I'm talking about by their standard.
Oh,
By their standard, I
oh.
said. But like
A lot of people think I'm cute.
but-
I'm just saying.
but like you're gorgeous. But well, she is. She's gorgeous. But all of that said, they don't print enough money to
Mhm.
make to make me, that would make me trade my wife. They don't print enough,
Mhm. Exactly.
you know.
Exactly.
And so my wife is just, I'm not gonna go on and on, but she's just like awesome. And anybody who knows me and hears me go off on a tangent about my wife knows what I think about my wife. She's just I she is a spectacular person. She's one of the best people I know, male or female.
Mhm.
Smart, brilliant, intuitive, insightful,
Oh,
funny,
go on. Come on. Come on.
funny in her way. Her sense of humor is like, our sense of humor is different though. And we don't match up on everything. But she is a spectacular person. Period.
Thank you.
So
That's awesome. I love that.
But see, I also feel like, just like Ayapo, we're back to kind of that capitalist thing, because it's sort of like you were talking about, like these big, tall, strapping, strong men, and their owners, because they're athletes, are these,
Mhm.
decrepit,
right,
beings that, there's no way in the world, except for that they created a system of money that these people would be, on
absolutely.
top. Now, I'm not just going by appearances, but also by, the way they move in the world. Their value is like, And I feel like that's the same. So they created a system where they can win. And I feel like the little bit that I hear about some of these conversations, it's like they create that it's a continuation of that system they created so they can win because they don't have anything going for them ex- except the money in terms of their ability to develop and grow spiritually and emotionally and in other ways. That's not really their wheelhouse. So they created a system where they can thrive and where they can win and have their pick of women.
Right.
Mhm.
Peace, Deborah Jefferson, we see you coming into the chat room, and Sister Ma'at, you have the mic.
No, I agree with everything that you're saying. It was something I was thinking about when you
What's
were.
about me being devastatingly handsome?
Oh
Thank
no,
you.
no, no, that's what I was thinking. I was like, and there it is. There's the high value relationship, right? Like that's
Right.
what it's tied to. It's tied to how you feel about one another. Because what I was even trying to express the other night was that when you feel a certain way and your husband or your spouse values you, you don't have to worry about all these things that we're talking about,
Right.
because you two are going to come together and make sure that you are creating the life that you desire. We
Right.
are, a lot of us are creating lives based on somebody else's definition.
Thank you.
And so that is where we're getting into trouble. Some of us don't even want to work that hard. But we're
Right.
just like, well, we're living somebody else's life.
Right. You're right. When you have, I love seeing black love and black couples working together. Angela and I are building together, and we have such a awesome synergy between between each other. And I just, I'm always thanking her for finishing Melanin. And she's like, "What are you talking about? You the one sat down. I could not have finished this book or that book without her." And I have explained to her many times why. Her just her being there, her encouragement, her her input into it, and it's just everything she does, and the love that she has for me, the honor she shows to me, the respect she gives to me, and vice versa, is I, I've I'm blessed. That's all I can say. I am blessed beyond anything I could put into words. That's why I start stammering when I try to talk about it, because I'm a writer and I couldn't even put into words what this woman means to me and what she is to me.
Mhm.
So anyway, that's my speech. So I spoke my speech, but that's what they fear.
Yeah.
They fear this because black couples, when we are together, it's like Ajali Shabazz and her king together. They are a force. They're a force, and her writing is reflected. The fact that she completed what she did, she could not have finished it and done it without her king's support. And she has said that many times, and that's just how it is. We support each other, we big up each other, we work with each other. Sister, I have zero doubt that it's the same thing with you and your husband.
Exactly. Hmm.
So you have the mic.
Yeah, and that's what we're talking about. I've seen that lately a lot of people have changed. They're using the word reciprocity, right? Like the reciprocal exchange, and they're talking about it in a way where it's transactional as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to energy, the reciprocal exchange. So that's very much a part of our relationship, right? But w- and I guess that's a question, because I've seen a lot where people have talked about um relationships, everything is transactional, and I have a hard time buying into that. I don't believe that my relationship is one of transaction, because they're saying that you expect. Because when I look up what a transactional relationship is, it's one where you expect something in return, right? So I have a hard time with that. I do have a relationship of reciprocity, right? Um, but I think I have a hard time with the word expecting. I do know, right? I do know that my husband has my back. I do know that my husband supports me. I do know that he protects me. I do know that he loves me. So it's more of a knowing as opposed to an expectation. So, I don't know how y'all feel about the whole idea of transactional, like relationships being transactional, but I do have a hard time with that concept, because I think of even with our children, we do things for our children, but we don't expect anything in return. It's not an expectation. It's a knowing, though. I know that they care about, I know they love us. We know that we love them. um there are things that they do for us just out of love, right? They'll just certain things that they just do. So I think this whole idea of everything is transactional, it just ties back to the way that we're operating in this capitalistic society.
Right. I think you're right. I think Angela would have an opinion. And she she has talked ever since I've known her. She's had this interest in transactional relationships,
Well,
right?
the idea of
The
it and
idea of it.
exploring it
Uh-huh.
and what it means. So I just Googled it too. And I put the link in the chat. We're talking about Black writers for Tamu Tamu, which is a matchmaker. But this matchmaker is 91 years old, and back in her younger years, she was a sugar baby, and that's the type of transactional relationship that I want to explore in the story. But when I looked it up on Google, this is from Phoenix Men's Counseling. A transactional relationship is one that is based on reciprocity and needs. In a transactional relationship, both parties expect to receive something in return for their investment. These relationships are not based on the idea that you should give without expecting anything in return. But I'm actually curious about the expectations,
Right.
because in dating and relating, at least for me, like I feel like I expect to be treated with respect. I expect to be cared. Like there are certain expectations that I have. I don't know if they're material, but I have not dealt with people because they didn't. They I didn't feel like it was a good match. So yeah, I don't know if I have an answer. It's just something I'm really exploring and thinking about these days, or have been.
And for me, but I understand what the thing is with the concept of expectation is, because I I, I never really sat down to think of it that hard, but I'll put it like this: if I'm treating my children right, the very least I expect is for them to show me some respect.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not an expectation as in you bet. I can't really quantify it. I can't.
Well, I
Can't describe.
I think for me, it's more of how do we, like, where do we come to the idea of expectations? Because I think if I just meet someone, right, I think we would like for them to expect. I think we would like the idea of them treating us well if we do certain things. But I don't necessarily think we can expect it because we don't know that person.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I think the expectation, in a sense, comes in when we do know. That's why I say it's a knowing, because it's more of, because I've been with my husband the amount of years I've been with him, because I know he loves me, I do expect it, but at the same time, it's just a knowing. But if I meet some stranger, I think we want to expect that. But we've been in situations where we have treated people kindly, and they still treated us wrong.
Mhm.
So I think
Right.
we want
Right.
to expect it, but I don't think we can actually expect it. So I
Mhm.
guess to me, that's why I say it's more of a knowing, it's more of a frequency as opposed to it actually being an expectation.
I, uh, what you said again, that resonated, because when you talk in terms of expectation that way, it automatically made me think of trusting a person.
Mm-hmm.
A person can be 100% untrustworthy, and I can still choose to trust them. Or a
Mm-hmm.
person can be 100% trustworthy, and I can choose not to trust them. it is something that you kind of bestow upon a person based
Mm-hmm.
upon whether you're going to do it or not.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I hear it just because
Right.
I kind of feel like in terms of my behavior, sometimes people are like, well, they triggered me or they said this and they did that. So I had to, and I don't necessarily, I feel like the way that I behave as much as possible is a reflection of who I am, and it's not a
Mhm.
reflection of who someone else is.
Right.
And so I kind of feel like what you're saying, what you will, I kind of feel like it gets at that vibration for me.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I want to welcome Cool Breeze into the chat, and I want to apologize to the chat room. I'm going to try to get better on this, because I haven't been doing live. I don't do a whole lot of lives, but one of my little things is I don't like when I'm in a chat and people don't read my chat. Well, it's not like, because you can't read everything everybody says, but sometimes you need to like pay attention to what's going on in the chat room, and read out some people's chats. And I haven't been doing that. I've been slipping on that. So I apologize. My aunt speaks out from you haven't been reading what's in the chat. What's going on? You
You
messing
know,
up.
that can be like when you're in conversation, that can get difficult. Like you're trying to get to everybody's like chat, and you're just like, oh, I can't get to everyone's because then we would be here for another 2 hours.
Right. But I didn't get to anyone's. So I apologize for that. And Cool Breeze would just say, so I've been married going on 34 years to a beautiful black woman. Definitely not without challenges, but we're still together. Excellent subject. And see, that's what I'm saying. Black love is alive and well.
Mhm.
Hmm.
They just, they just try to hide it, um, for their own purposes.
In Black Love, I feel like that's the
Oh,
first.
that's Avery.
That's the first. Oh, okay.
Uh, Avery has been with us since the very beginning. He's been with me since the very beginning. But okay. Peace to you, brother.
I feel like Black love is at the core of everything. I feel like, our love of ourselves and our love of each other is at the core of our liberation and our freedom and our happiness and our joy. So
Right,
without black love, what do we have?
right. And if we don't love each other, then who's gonna love us?
Right.
Because it, it, uh, I can't relate. I can't relate to a white person. A white person can't relate to me. I don't care how much they try to understand me or how understanding they might try to be, or what their their journey is not my journey, or their journey is not our journey, and they're not of our tribe. You know, they can't understand it. So I don't. I'll be honest. I don't even understand how those relationships work. The ones that do, I don't even understand the mechanics of how they work. Um,
Right. That's what I'm like.
I don't get it.
But
I definitely think you have to fragment yourself in order to go that route as a black person. I'm not sure about a white person, but I think as a black person, you definitely have to fragment yourself.
Right.
Because I mean that's Urugu anyway. It's that separation, it's that fragmentation. So I definitely think that's what they're doing because it's almost like being in a situation where I don't know. I know growing up in the South, I've always had an issue. We could be a group of black people, having it's kind of comparable to what y'all were saying about the Kwanzaa event. But when a white person, you can have a whole group of black people, but once a white person comes into the area, you have to start making them feel comfortable. You don't have to, but that's what we tend to do. We
Right.
tend to try to make them feel comfortable. So I do think that probably plays a big part in these relationships, and which leads to fragmentation, because you have to make them feel you want it's and I think it comes from our mindset as people in this, in this, who've been in this country, been on this soil, who've been in this environment for so long, where we had to appease the white person.
Right.
So that also required fragmentation. So I can't see that you can be a complete and whole person and be in that type of relationship.
Right. And then there's all this stuff you gotta learn. You gotta teach
Mhm.
yourself to clap on 1 and 3. You gotta learn to eat potato salad with raisins in it. And you gotta like watch reruns of Friends and Seinfeld. And that it's just too much.
Mhm.
Too much.
Seinfeld is funny to
Yeah,
me.
I like Seinfeld. I ain't gonna
No,
lie.
Friends. I don't understand. My students be talking about Friends all day and night. I'm like, yeah,
Right, yeah, that's it. Yeah, I don't get it. So we're going on 2.5 hours, and this was just so awesome. Since we don't have like the clap sound. I said the crap sound, the clap sound. Ain't nobody getting flushed. So my aunt speaks. I'm so honored that you came onto the chat, sister Ajali. Thank you so much for being here, and Hood Mistress. Definitely, I'm going to start promoting your book. I didn't even know that you've written one. Let me see who all is in here. Uh, let's see. Deborah Jefferson thanks for stopping by. I'm just talking all over the place now. Cool Breeze, thank you for being here. Inya, thank you, and just do it. Thank you. I'm glad I know that you're Sister Ma'at's husband now. That's kind of pretty awesome. Unsunken one. And I think I got everybody. There's somebody here, Angela Riley. Thanks for showing up, and thank you for the super chat. And that's you, right?
Yeah. I was gonna say something about her, but then I was like, they won't get the joke. I'm like,
Yeah,
they
wouldn't get it.
crazy.
Okay, and so we're gonna close out, and Sister My Aunt Speaks. I'm gonna let you have the final. Oh well, before I go, let me hawk my book. There's Melon in the Novel. Sister, when you gonna have me on to hawk my book?
Oh yeah. What's your email address?
That's all right. I ain't gonna put you on the spot.
Oh no, I actually want both of y'all to come on. I've done a marriage live before, where we all kind of like, talk. I like to have like different people from different walks of life kind of come on,
Sure.
talk about like just for black love, black marriage, something positive. So I was actually thinking about y'all last week, and I was like, I really need to have them on. So yeah, if you can you put your email in the chat?
I will.
Okay, all right.
And it's easy to remember ayapo@ayapoyapa.com. But I'll also
Okay.
thank you, sweetheart. And so Melon in the Novel, available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. Um, Surviving the Worst, that is available on Kindle Vella. My short stories, two of my short stories, Scars and what's the other one? Scars and Person Zero, are also on Amazon. There's another one coming out Friday. This also from the Paradigm Board series, and that is called A Piece of Darkness. And Angela's story, she has two stories up. I Declare Love, Declare DECLAIRE, Love, and those are both on Kindle Vella. What's the other one? And let me see. I don't because I don't want to forget my sister's book. Sister Angelique's books are up on both Kindle, both Amazon and 25,000 year cycle.net. Those books are This Black, This Black Nation, and the nonfiction Furnace of Affliction. And we have Longing for Night. That's new on the scene to me. New to me is on Barnes and Noble, and that is available as an ebook. Longing for the Night, and that is by Ms. K.J. K is in King, J is in Jupiter. I don't know why I use Jupiter. Longing for the Night. I'm looking forward to reading that one too. Thank you so much, sister. And so that said, I'm gonna let Angela have the next to last word, and then Sister Ma'at, I'm gonna let you have the final word.
Um, let's get out here. I feel like even if you are, I was gonna say I don't have anything to say, but even if you are not a writer or an author, our lives write a story. Our lives tell a story. So let us be authors and writers and creators of our life in a way that is in alignment with loving and supporting ourselves, our family, and our community. Peace.
Peace. And now we gotta let the spectacular My Aunt Speaks have the final word.
Well, thank you for having me up. I really have enjoyed this conversation. I really think that, you always have great things to say, even when you're in the chat. But I think that these conversations, we just have to continue to have these conversations, continue to support one another, continue to love on one another, be mindful of where you're getting your energy from, and really try to absorb the positives that you can find, like things like this conversation, this channel, and supporting as much as we can. I think a lot of times we talk about representation, but then we dismiss the ones who are out here who are representing us, who are writing the narratives that we need, that are coming from the Black minds, that are really about liberation. So we need to continue to support that as much as we can. So it has been an honor to be here, and it is nice to meet you, Angela, and good to see you again, Iyapo. And so I bid adieu and just keep on being um the loving people that you are, and just let's just keep on doing what we do, because for me it's just about it's so much about the next generation. So I appreciate the both of you for this platform that you have and what y'all are doing as far as being creatives.
Well, thank you so much. And I said I was gonna let you have the last word, but I'm gonna say everybody go to My Aunt Speaks and give you and do yourself a favor, and also go to Hanifa to help me with this, Sister Ma'at.
Mhm.
Hanifa Nyla,
Nayela, is Nayela. Mm-hmm.
Hanifa Naila, and I'm going to put that link once more in the chat. If you want to hear some Black love going on, that's what you're going to hear going on. So I'm going to put this link, and then I'll go on and close out. And thank you so much again, sister, for being with us.
Oh, of course. All right, see y'all. Peace.
Peace to you.
Peace.
Let me go and close it. Well, let me put this in the link in the chat. Yeah. Okay. You think we fooled him? I know the mic is still on. No, the mic is still on. You know how people be like,
I like to grab him by the
exactly. You know how people be like under a hot mic, and then they be saying all this sideways to that dog, our sister Angelique. She don't even know how to hang the toilet paper right. I'll let you leave her alone. Sis, I love you. I'll talk to y'all soon.